this rumpisode. Is Bitcoin continuing this pattern, and if so, what would it mean for its next move? Over the last 24 hours, Bitcoin's price has been squished and gushed into a tight $100 price range. What does it mean for the short term? And as well, on this daily chart, guys, the volume is absolutely abysmal. It is extremely low, which is exactly what you expect before a big move. But where on this chart will we end up before we see that return to volume? And Ethereum in an absolute shake and bake area, guys. If it is unable to hold here, there is a significant pullback target for Ethereum that we'll show you on these charts. A crisscross applesauce, guys. We talked about this insanely bullish cross in the last video, but when can we expect it to come to fruition and actually potentially initiate a mega blast off, as it never happens exactly when the cross does happen? But when can we expect that move? Welcome back, Squirter Squadron. We have an absolute rumpisode for you here today, guys. So much to be delving into with Bitcoin's price, as we've seen volatility basically jump off of a cliff for the last few months, but specifically now, we are in one of the least volatile trading ranges that we've seen in a long time. So we're going to be jumping and jiving into these charts to get a sneak peek of what these charts are trying to tell us. Wow, so if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that ding to get notified when we upload new videos like this. And as well, congrats to the winner. They actually chose to receive Bitcoin because they are pretty far away. So as always, if you're interested in winning a ledger, make sure to drop your comment below and make sure you are subscribed. Huge. So if we take a zoomed in chart here on just even the 30-minute or 1 hour chart for Bitcoin, guys, you can see how the volatility has absolutely jumped off of a cliff over the last 24 hours. But even more interestingly, for the past entire week since last Saturday, we've just been trading within this tight range, right? So even though we've been trading within basically $100 for the last 24 hours, we've also been trading between like 11.2 and 11.5 for the past entire week. So basically for the past entire week, we have not really diverged too much from this central area right here. Okay, Bitcoin price movement has absolutely stalled, and that is going to play a part as we talk about this pattern here. But for the most part, not too much going on in the hourly chart. We don't have too many significant divergences going on the 1 or the 4 hour, which for the past few weeks, there was actually a lot of divergences. And actually over the past month even, there was many that were indicating some very sizable moves. But as we mentioned, over the past week, on this 1 and 4 hour chart, there's not anything super blatant and obvious on this chart other than the fact that we're just trading sideways. So again, this is actually a good area to trade sideways, as we've just had a bullish cross with the 21 going above the 50-day moving average, and we're above the 21 week. And again, for the most part, this is a pretty good area to trade sideways if we're going to trade sideways. But as well, guys, you see the volume here is absolutely abysmal, right? This goes all the way back to 2015. We can actually just start it here with 2017, the peak here, so you can compare some of the volumes here. Obviously, this massive amount was the crash in March. That was a huge event. The biggest, even bigger than any single volume candles back in 2017, right? So it just shows you how significant that area was back in March, right? And that was reflected not only in Bitcoin, but in every market for the most part. Because what you've noticed since then, volume has basically jumped off of a cliff, right? The next big area of volume we had was back in May, where we had a nice move to the upside, right? And we can just show you on that chart here as where we were kind of just coming up here and we broke back above 7, 8, even 9K back in this area here. So you see that on the chart as well. The next area being July, you see we pumped from about 93 all the way up to about 12.5. So the volume did come in for that as well. That's what this other significant area of volume is. But guys, as you can see, there has been, other than these 3 big spikes, 2020 has had very little volume explosions, right? In 2020, we've basically had 3 decent sized explosions, and you can see here even in 2019 we had some very significant increases in volume for Bitcoin. And guys, last week we talked about this area being a major area of resistance. If you remember this upward sloping channel, the very bottom line of this channel, and that combined with the fact that we talked about 11.8 roughly being a very heavy resistance area. So for the most part, we're just consolidating between these 2 areas. And most importantly, comparing our current cycle between the 786 and the golden pocket on this Fib retrace, exactly identical to here back in 2016, where we had that initial rejection, support, and then lifting off after that. We're basically in the part where we're about to start lifting off, in my opinion, where we got that initial rejection right here on both of these charts, find support at the golden pocket right about here on both of these charts, and then lift off. And again, I don't think it'll repeat exactly, but for the most part, this has been playing out exactly, and especially on these longer term macro patterns, you for the most part do want to see Fibonacci retracements be broken identically to this, and they have played a huge role in just tracking this entire 3-year pattern anyway. So again, they already have some validity built in based on the past 3 years that we've been using it. And as well, guys, one of the final days, if you input TylerSCrypto 1 or 2 when you make a deposit here on Bybit, using the link below, you can get up to an extra $390 for trading on Bybit. This will be over soon. And using the link below, you get an extra 30% trading fee reduction. And so guys, this pattern is something that looks eerily familiar, right? If we go to this chart here, you get a nice picture of it as well, but we had this very long symmetrical triangle with a break, a plateauing and kind of resistance horizontally for a while. And then we broke down, and you can see we're kind of in a smaller version of something similar to that. Now, I don't think these are going to repeat. I don't necessarily think we're going to have a dump down to roughly what this, if this did repeat, it would be like a dump down to 10,007. But based on this chart here, guys, this triangle is about half the length of this one. This one's about 90 days. This one's been about 45 days. This breakout was about 20% to the upside right about here. And this one was about 10% as well. So both of those are identical almost. I mean, it basically, this is half the length of this triangle, or this one is half the length of this one. This breakout has been half the length of this, or the height of this breakout. And if we were to expect that they would go on for similar amounts of time, then that would actually push us basically almost until the end of the month that we could be trading in this range. But again, I don't necessarily think that is what's happening, but I just think it's interesting that we break out of a symmetrical triangle, break up to a very key level, and find horizontal resistance. And that's exactly what we're doing now, but now we're finding that horizontal resistance kind of in the middle of where that previous was, right? We were all the way up at 12.5 in the previous one, and this time we're struggling basically right around 11.5. So an entire $1,000 less than that. So again, while I think this pattern is interesting, that this version right here is about half as big as this one right here, I don't think that what we're going to see, because again, if this repeated exactly, what we'd see is basically this trading sideways for another few weeks and then a dump down to right about here, which again, I just don't think is likely. What I think is much more likely here is that, like the last 3 times that we've had this bullish cross, over the next week, we are going to start a more substantial uptrend. And depending on how long this goes on, roughly though, I think it'll be about $12,000. Another retest of $12,000 will be the trigger that could initiate a much bigger move up to even 13,000 US dollars. At the very biggest, even around 14,000 US dollars. So, you know, trading within here for another week and then retesting 12 is going to be the huge key there. Because for right now, we've cemented 11. We just want to continue to hold 11. It's been amazing holding 10,000 US dollars, which is this blue line, right? We pretty much held that for over an entire month. But yeah, we've been testing 11 for a while, and it seems pretty strong so far. If we get another push over the next few days, and especially over this upcoming week, I think we have a very high likelihood of actually testing to 13K. And if that would happen, that just opens the doors for so much new technical analysis, especially on these longer time frames, considering we haven't been above 13,000 US dollars basically any time in the last 3 years, other than this very, very, very short-lived week or two here back in the summer of 2019. So again, one more bullish move, one more bullish break above 12K, that would most likely fuel a pump to even possibly 14K at the highest, I think, but more likely 13K. So at the highest 14, more likely 13 in my opinion, if that move does play out over the next week or even longer than that. But I think according to this, it could actually happen a little sooner. If that would happen, then what that does is absolutely explode the TA in a good way and opens up the chance to get some absolutely new patterns on the board here. And most importantly, it would make this macro chart explosive with data. Because guys, even just look at this. If we let's just draw roughly where 13K is right about here, and then 14 is right about here. Both of those are extremely significant in this last 3-year symmetrical triangle that we're in. And again, in my opinion, that's the doorway to explosiveness. I think things will skyrocket in that 13 and 14K, and specifically anything over 14K, we are literally knocking on all-time highs. Whether Bitcoin breaks 14K, you know, this week or a month or two from now, either way, whenever that happens, I sincerely hope you have all of the crypto you want and need, because that's when things are going to get explosive. That's when it's going to go mainstream, or at least the very beginning of it going mainstream again, and the attention really piles on. Institutional FOMO is already kind of happening, but even enhanced institutional FOMO and enhanced retail FOMO, in my opinion, occurs sometime after 14K. Institutions that have not already gotten in, right? Over the last 2 years, we've heard of tons of institutions getting into crypto. After 20K, Any institution that is not in by that point, guys, I think even they are going to start FOMOing heavily, right? Even the big players in the space, I think, are going to feel massive FOMO. But again, I think that's also why a lot of institutions are already in, because they're a little bit smarter than the average retail investor, and they already know what is coming. And again, that's why myself and so many other people and so many other news outlets across the space cover the news when institutions maybe invest 1%, 5% of their entire assets into Bitcoin. Wow, guys, so make sure to drop your comment and subscribe below to enter for this ledger or Bitcoin if you're out of the country. And as well, if you're interested in signing up and getting nice bonuses to trade, make sure to use our links below.